Look, I think we've had a wonderful look today at what's happening in the industry. I think Ben and Sam from the MLA and Live Corp this morning covered a lot of where the market's going and the direction of the cattle market. So what I wanted to touch on really was to more explain the live export industry, who we are as Austrex initially, and then explain what we do and how complex our market is, just to try and have a look at that. So initially I'll base it around our breeder market into China when we get there. So Austrex has been around for 43 years, started in 1973 by Richard Trivett. We've exported over 5 million sheep and 4 million cattle in those 43 years, which I think's roughly about 210,000 a year, give or take 1,000. We're based in Brisbane in Queensland. And as said before, when Brad introduced me, we're in New Zealand, USA, Chile, Uruguay, Turkey. We've got offices in China, Russia, Dubai, Vietnam, and obviously in the big markets in Indonesia. Basically, the global presence ensures a strong market support from Austrex to all of our different markets. The Austrex brand is recognised pretty well worldwide now in the 43 years that we've been operating, and it's recognised as, high integrity, reliability, and obviously we operate as Ranges Valley under a very strong customer focus. We do anything from to sell cattle, turnkey operations, help people with their projects, which we'll touch on a little bit later on in the presentation. Obviously, throughout all the presentations that we've had today, animal welfare is also paramount part of what we do in our industry, and we'll touch on a little bit of that as well. We've had a long-serving, loyal senior executive team. James is here as well today. We've basically got 96 odd years of the live export industry in our senior executive management team. So what they don't know about the markets is probably what the rest of us have forgotten. Austrex is a leading livestock exporter. Our key markets, China, which is our basic, is what we'll touch on today, but China is our largest breeder market. And then we've got Indonesia for feeder slaughters, Vietnam, Malaysia, Philippines, Russia, and other Commonwealth independent states, Turkey, Israel, Middle East, and Japan. Basically, in Austrex, we, on average, we've done 210, but in more recent years, in 2014, 2015, we've become one of the largest exporters in Australia, if not the world. We do about 250,000 head a year. The beef and feeder market into Indonesia and those northern areas, around about 200,000 head, and the breeder market, which was a lot of dairy, but now turning more into Angus beef going into the China markets. So we do about 60,000 head there a year. We provide a lot of pre and post discharge management of our cattle. Anything from building a new project or expanding feasibility studies for their businesses and helping them do that. We don't just throw a rope round cattle, throw them on a boat and send them overseas, basically. We can help with anything from food, nutrition, feed management, production practices. We've taken people in from the US and Australia into different markets around the world that we deliver to help our guys. I think if our guys become more profitable, we'll still be in business. It's, we're a brand name, no different to Ranges Valley. Slaughter training, pre and post discharge assistance. I've been to many places in the world unloading the cattle that we send over there. Some more pleasant experiences than others. Pakistan's probably on the least pleasant side, and China's learned a lot in the years that I've been going there in the last 7 years. We've also taken a lot of our customers that are buying our cattle into different climatic zones and stuff. We've taken people across to the US to do cold cattle management and just help train people that haven't had much knowledge. Most of the people that are starting these businesses are accountants and hold the money, and we're there to try and help support them. Basically, what we'll go on to now is just a rough outline of what we do heading into, selling beef breeder, Angus breeders into the China market. Basically, the purchase process, we can sort of just try and follow those photos around. Basically, either we'll have a direct contact with you, or we'll go through your preferred agency. We'll come out and assess the cattle. We'll tag the cattle. We'll put an export ear tag in their head. We'll have to collect all the breeding paperwork on these animals, and we'll have to pass that through then to Angus Australia to get certificates for each animal. Nil's residency is another big thing that was brought up this morning by Sam, I think, with regards to 6 months. Each protocol for different countries for breeder cattle has different requirements. For China, it's 6 months, and that's 6 months starts from the day that you transfer those animals onto your pick. So we have the ability through the help from LiveCorp and the Department of Ag and the DPIs to be able to have a look at that now, whereas before we couldn't. And they'd give us that information back. So some of you may or may not have received information to say that that cattle were tagged but now no longer eligible because of residency. The 6 month period, 183 days, that is a requirement by the China protocol, and there's no bending the rules as far as that. Our government and their government people or government vets check all of that. The DPI will collect information to get a property of origin clearance, disease clearance on your farm. You give us permission to do that through the paperwork on the on-farm buying. We go to the DPI. They'll tell us that for that particular protocol that, we're free of several different diseases. There's a whole lot there. I won't go into them all because you'll go to sleep on me. On-farm blood test. So for on-farm, we go through IBR, BVD, JD, BT and Akabani. All of them except for blue tongue. If you get one positive blue tongue, the whole farm will be removed. As it was stated earlier today, blue tongue's just a huge worldwide problem. We don't actually have a clinical case here in Australia, so it's frustrating, but it's part of the protocol and it is what we do. IBR is also another frustrating one, which is usually higher numbers than what we would all like. We've put the time and effort into coming to see you and like your cattle, we've tagged them, we've purchased them, and then we lose them for IBR. If you get over 50% IBR in the protocol, the rest of the cohorts will also be out of the shipment. So it's pretty tough, but it's also manageable as well. So we try and do smaller mobs and handle it that way. But it's good to be aware of all of these things if you're selling to live export, especially into the breeder market. It is a little bit fiddly, but it works 99% of the time. You'll then get a clearance from Austrex head office for eligible cattle. We'll send you some documentation saying which ones have passed the blood and which ones haven't. You can see down. It's not very clear, I'm sorry. It's very hard to put a lot of photos on a slide, but we'll tell you which ones have failed and what they've failed for, and which ones are eligible to come in. We'll also give you at that stage delivery instructions to get those cattle down to our quarantines wherever they may be. Once they get into the quarantine, there's a whole process that we go through that I won't bore you with, but there is a fair process. Australian accredited or Aquis accredited veterinarian, which has changed its name now to something else because the Department of Ag have changed their name, will check all the cattle for breeding soundness. That's what they're purchased for, so we'll do that. So we'll actually test to see if their heifers are empty. We've probably purchased them empty unless it's been a specialised order for pregnants. So we'll check if they're empty, and then we'll also check to make sure they've got all the necessary pieces of equipment to produce calves once they get to their markets overseas. Once all of that's done and acceptance notifications will get sent out to our vendors or agents with eligible cattle that come into the quarantine. That's just a picture of the blue tongue map, which Sam, I think, went through before. It is a moving target. It is a bit frustrating sometimes, but we can only source cattle from inside the brown area for the China market. Quarantine process, just to carry on from after your cattle are delivered to us, we then try and take the best possible care we can for them. All animals will be inspected by the CIQ, which is the Chinese government vets. They'll stand there, watch us bring the cattle in, and then we'll go through the whole preg testing process. There'll be a true to type inspection. Jim Green, I think, is here somewhere. He comes down and does an inspection as the animals run off the truck. All these things we have to do to try and get the certificates, and we'll know every tag number to RFID, to who the farmer was, to the property, the pick, everything. We have to keep all that information. So they'll get their type inspection, and then we have to start giving them their protocol vaccinations. Depending on markets, it does vary, but one common one is a Bovillus MH plus IBR. So disappointingly, we test for the antibodies on farm, which means if you've had a cold, you've then got the antibodies to fix it, which I'm pretty sure Sam once again said, and then we take them into quarantine and we give them the antibodies so they don't get the cold again. So, but it is the protocol, it is the way it's written, and that's what we have to do. Animals are basically scanned again then, pregnancy, breeding, soundness check, which we've spoken about, internal, external drench. That's the end of the sort of induction process then. Once we get all that done, the animals are in. They have about 2 weeks rest, and then they come through again for a quarantine bleed. So we have to bleed the cattle again for most of the diseases that we've already tested for on farm. So we will bleed every single animal again. We'll run them through, run those bloods through. By the time we get them back, there's a time constraint on that for us as well. So we've got 10 days to get all our animals blood results back, and hopefully line it up with a ship that hasn't hit bad weather or something. So once we get the blood results back, we'll have a health and inspection, which is once again our Chinese vets and our Department of Ag veterinarian will come out. It's actually happening today down in Portland in Victoria. They're running through those animals as we speak. They'll have a look, check them for, that we've got no lame or injured animals, and we'll scan all of those animals again, put them into our system. They're then tucked away for the night and they're ready for loading. So the animals will then, tomorrow, now that we're doing it at this time, they'll get run through the yards again in the morning. We'll scan all the animals again to make sure that we have no reject animals in there. The Chinese will go through nearly individually by each tag to make sure that we haven't mucked up any of their systems that they're enforcing us to do. So it is a very difficult, long, drawn-out process. I think at the moment, the particular shipment I'm talking about is just over 4,000 head. We will have run them through the yards 7 times by the time we get them to get them onto the ship. So there is a lot of work to be done, and yeah, I think that's why not many people do it, because it's just not easy. We'll also then go into discharging to the importing country as well. So as I mentioned before, I'll get over there. And then we have to do reports back to the Department of Ag to make sure that they're happy with all of the health requirements and what we've had to do to get your cattle and our cattle to the markets over there. There is a bit of a video. I'm not sure if it's going to start, but that is a video of just cattle running on, but I won't bore you with that. Certification requirements, which is what we've just spoken about as well. So the cattle will get inspected by Jim. You know, there's depending on the market, there is a requirement for Category 1 animals, which is 3 generations on both sides. And then the Cat 2 animals, which will make up the bulk of a shipment. They will be just 3 generations on the size side, and you generally need a dam number to go with it. Cat 1 animals, they've got to have all your proper markings, you've got to have your ident, and look, I'm sure Jim Green would love to be able to explain it better than I can to you, but they've either got to be tattooed or freeze branded. If they're not, we have to go through and redo it. So if you're selling your Cat 1 animals, try and get all of that done so that there's no extra costs. All animals must be registered on the Angus Australia database. So once the animals have been inspected, we will send all the information for each individual animal to the Angus Society, and then they'll start doing pre-embarkation certificates, similar to the one that we've got marked up there. Some of the challenges that I see for Angus, or any cattle, any breed of cattle in the live export to China, but definitely with Angus, is registered Cat 1 Angus heifers are a part of the shipment. I know in Australia we don't all necessarily want to go to the cost of registering our animals, but if you want to use it as a source to market, certainly if you can register your animals and you're breeding heifers, it would be a good idea. There's international pressures for us all from New Zealand and Uruguay and Chile. They're the only other places that are allowed to export cattle to China at the moment. So be aware of that. With the certification of animals, you know, with these other market pressures and stuff like that, we need cost efficiencies to help against our other markets. So we just got to make sure that we're proficient in everything we do. The trade is reliant on buyers receiving the duty exemption. So just to explain that a little bit, our customers will receive a government duty exemption or duty tax on the way in. So these percentages is sort of how that all works for them. It's a huge cost to them if they can't get it. And working with, you know, we've all got to work together to gain some efficiencies. Don's explained it way better than I'm going to here at the moment, but respect our product and our reputation. We certainly send, you know, we buy your cattle and send them overseas in the best possible condition that we can. It's what we want to do. You know, our customers need good quality products, and you know, what we do reflects back on the cattle that we're selling them from you guys. So we try and do the best job we can there. We've got to balance our expectations. There are competitors out there, so you know we need to make sure that for the Australian cattle, we've got to sell our markets the best possible cattle that we can. It's all our responsibility to deliver the best product and the best reputation. So you'll certainly see in a minute here when I put up a video of what we actually do, apart from just selling cattle into export markets. Long-term relationships driving professionalism. I think Austrex has delivered multiple shipments to the same customer within China and other markets around the world. You know, I think over time, when you deal with the same people, business becomes a lot easier. You know, I think what we should do as growers or graziers is develop long-term relationships with our markets. So whether that be us or exporters or whichever other way you'd like to market your cattle, you know, we're here, we're available, we do a good job, and I think we need to communicate a lot better. If we can do that, we can perform a lot better on the world stage. Delivering the needs of our customers, which is basically what we all want, which is profitability. If the Australian Angus perform better than anywhere else in the world, they're going to come back here, and we might be able to get a premium for them. We need to be reliable and reliable with supply and quality. Lucky thing about Australia and New Zealand, I suppose, is that we've got a great clean and green product, and that's how we're seen around the world, especially in places like China. Animal welfare, once again, Don's covered this all very well. You know, for 43 years, Austrex has also been working very well on building our animal welfare. Basically, without going through that, you can all read you know, animal welfare is going back onto the last point that I just made. It's about delivering a product, you know, low stress environment. If we can do that, the animals are going to arrive in a much better condition. We, through the protocols and the work that we have to do, the hoops that we have to jump through, it is difficult for the animals. They do a lot more walking through yards than what we would normally do, but we do it in a fashion that we try and help them enjoy it. Another way of doing it is we've got state-of-the-art shipping. Austrex runs 4 vessels at the moment. Those 4 vessels have a capacity of 16,500 head. We have different size ships, so you know, they're all purpose-built to suit livestock carrying. They're not refurbished livestock or container carriers, so they're comfortable and they're clean and they're safe for the animals. And animal welfare, just continuing on, animal welfare starts from the farm gate as well with you guys. So I think, you know, for weaning cattle and stuff like that, if they're handled well, by the time we take over and move them to different areas and different markets around the world, it's how we start. You know, it's how we start with the cattle is how they're going to end up and how they're going to operate for the rest of their lives. Less stress we can place on animals, the better. Austrex is installed to help through Coopers and MSD, the help of doctors Kev, Tom and Paulo from Creating Connections. Wonderful group of guys that do stock handling training that we've done with them. There's a little video here of me in a minute with Dr. Kev giving some encouragement along the line. But, you know, we're basically doing, I just wanted to show you this because we're doing this to benefit the animals and to show you guys what we actually do and how much that we actually do care with our animal welfare in getting these animals overseas. We are a highly regulated industry from our importing country protocols, space requirements on our ships, disease testing that we have to do. It's just a very, very difficult trade. What I'd like to do now, and I hope this video turns out a little bit better, is this is just a video on a project that we did in China from start to go with the customer. And anyway, I'll let the video do all the explaining for you.
When Austrex took on a contract to supply breeder cattle to China, it would prove to be one of the most challenging projects the Queensland-based livestock exporter has taken on. It would result in one of the longest road hauls of livestock China has seen, and perhaps more significantly, the influencing of a Chinese beef enterprise to adopt as its own Australian management practices and animal welfare standards. But before any of that could happen, plenty of groundwork had to be done.
When we turned up and met the customer, you know, we were looking at a site that was totally raw. We were on the edge of the Kazakhstan border and right up in far western China in Xinjiang province, and there was just bare ground.
Such a harsh climate would need a hardy cattle breed and specialist knowledge, so Austrex's answer was to make it possible for the client to see how it's done.
Initially we thought, well, where do we go where it's negative 30 or 40 degrees where they have cattle outside? And, you know, North America, Montana, western USA was a great place to go.
From the United States, the client was also taken to Uruguay, New Zealand and Australia. In the finish, Angus was agreed on as the right breed for the project. Austrex would not only supply Angus heifers and bulls, it would send internationally respected cattle specialist Jim Stewart to consult on pretty much everything: facility design, construction, management and animal welfare. In just 60 days, the facility went from nothing to operational. The rapid build made more impressive due to 25% of the multi-million-dollar infrastructure budget being saved as a result of Jim Stewart's advice to use recycled materials where possible. While the Austrex team was busy in China, Angus heifers were being sourced from southeastern Australia for the Battala consignment.
We obviously made sure we were getting Category 1 and Category 2 cattle with proof of documentation to back that breeding, and more so to get the proof of residency for 6 months on farm to make those animals compliant for China.
After screening for eligibility under the strict Australia-China animal health protocols, 3,500 animals were loaded onto one of Austrex's own vessels.
There is no line of trade where you can make a call and just get a port-to-port delivery. As a result, in order to continue to develop our business and meet our customers' requirements, we have a purpose-built fleet. We've got 5 vessels that are state-of-the-art modern vessels of varying size.
The live cattle trade is a challenging business, and 2 animals were lost on the voyage. But what lay ahead was potentially an even more demanding journey: 4,500 kilometres across China by road.
We need to do an audit of all the trucks, and I know Jim was heavily involved in this process to make sure each one was up to standard to be able to carry enough stock. They carefully planned a number of spelling stops which had to be secure and to ensure no disease was picked up during the process. So there was many things thought about to ensure those animals arrived in good shape.
Remarkably, not one animal was lost, and while the road trip took its toll on condition, the cattle fully recovered. The heifers have since calved and gone through their first Chinese winter.
It really shows that the courage that this customer took to take on our suggestions and implement them and deliver an outstanding result was truly impressive.
Austrex has already exported more than 350,000 head of cattle to China, and the Battala project means more will be supplied.
They want to have their facilities, their enterprise, as the role model for all other projects in China. Technically, infrastructure-wise, management of cattle-wise, they want to be the showcase in China.
The live cattle trade is a complex business, and it's not possible to guarantee there won't be problems. What helps keep exporters such as Austrex focused is the knowledge that unless they do it well, look after their livestock and require their client to do the same, their own economic future is very much at risk.
It makes you very proud at times that we're able to rise to the challenge and deliver an outstanding result. This project comes together to just be a wonderful story. So I think that's a wonderful insight into what we do and our company does in market. And we're very proud of what we do, very proud
of the cattle that we buy from the growers such as yourselves, and yeah, I think that's it for me. I've got a little bit of stuff here on Vietnam, but I think we're all tired. But I'll just flick through it as well. It's not really about Angus cattle, but I thought it might interest you. There's just some floppy-eared cattle going up to, but there's some of the things we do in construction and in helping people develop their feedlots. So obviously this is a new customer. They're a feedlot there that we're trying to, that is now established. Cattle in market now. There's some Angus cattle that are doing it very well in tropical conditions in Vietnam, and they're in bloody great nick. That's your feed chopping facility. So a lot of things are fairly primitive, and chopping up king grass, I think it is. You know, animal welfare officers that we train over there. So all the staff training, showing them what to do and how to do it. We've put in CCTV for the SCAS, which the guys spoke about this morning as well. So traceability is a huge thing. We've got our own in-house or proprietary developed scanning system that we use for breeder and feeder slaughter markets that trace the cattle right through the whole process. And obviously cattle handling training as well over there, just to show them that most of their cattle have probably got pins through their noses and are led around. So when they see Australian cattle, it's a little bit different, and we just show them how to do it right. Must have been a breeder consignment there. I saw a calf. Also some in-house training for their staff as well. So we give them practical and theory training to make sure that they become profitable and well-managed businesses. And happy cows is a happy life. So thank you very much, everyone, and I hope you have an enjoyable evening tonight at dinner.